Good morning, everyone, and welcome, Brooke. And this is the Kendall Colman Show. And this is actually the first time that we're doing this show. So thank you so much for being my first guest. And we decided to call it a show versus a podcast because I don't like kind of the restrictions of a podcast, and I sort of like the idea of show
Mm,
because show is such an important part of how I coach leaders and how I show up in the world is by helping people be seen, heard, out front, and wanted.
I
That's
love that. Well, thank you for having me as your first guest. And I love show. It comes from, for me, back to my journalism days, show, don't tell, and
oh,
sort of leading by example. So I love being
wow.
on the Kendall Coleman Show.
Thank you so much. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today is how to show up, how to be seen and not read. Say your line again in journalism that it's
Show, don't tell.
show don't tell. Exactly. So
Hmm.
that's really what we're talking about today is how to help people really understand what it means to be a leader as coach. And that's the title of our upcoming masterclass that we're here to invite. And we're going to have an enrollment moment at the end where we really want everybody to sign up and bring others to this incredible masterclass that we're going to be putting on next month. And the details are below, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. So I'm thrilled to introduce you all to Brooke Arthur. She has been in strategic communications for a better part of 15 years. Is it
Maybe
safe to say?
20.
Maybe
Yeah.
20. Okay, I wanted you to fill in that, not me. Uh, but yeah, so long time career in strategic communications and now has added coaching to her repertoire in the last couple of years. And I've been delighted to just be a part of your journey and be an
Hmm.
encourager because we need more Brooke Arthur in the world. That's the stand I'm taking
Oh,
today.
thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you
yeah.
so much. And you've been an incredible mentor and colleague to me on this journey. So this is exciting for me.
So I'm curious, like, what was that chrysalis event for you of why you decided why I'm going to go and get my
Mm,
certification coaching? What is it that was missing that maybe you wanted to fill in the blanks?
sure. I'll try to give you the short version of the story, but I had been, as you said, in communications, and I got into communications because I really feel that information is power. And humans are different. They communicate differently than any other species. And so I just loved storytelling. I love communication between people. I loved writing, the written word. But over time, I sort of started to gravitate more to interpersonal communications. And I had been working with leaders within organizations where I worked on staff. And then I had this opportunity to start working with some people outside, helping them with their communication. So, public speaking, writing. And it really evolved into helping them think about their leadership. And so that led me to you to ask, what is the training program that you went through, and you introduced me to CTI, and it has just been amazing opening up different ways to interact with people, to listen, just to be in the world in a more open way, and then also to bring those skills to others. So I've been coaching for about 3 years now, and I work a lot with schools, but I also work with corporations as well.
Yes, and we're going to get you into more corporations.
Yes.
That's one of our goals. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you for that background and what I love about what you said and the CTI when Brooke and I mentioned CTI, it's actually the Coactive Institute now. And all of
Mhm.
us grads still refer to it as CTI, but it is coactive.com, I believe is their website. If you want to hear or explore more there in terms of what that reference is, that's the school that Brooke and I both went through to be certified as coaches. And so highly recommend that. What we're talking about though is for leaders who are currently, on the job and who really want to shift their perspective to see themselves more as what if leader was coach instead of adding coaching skills, what if we saw the role for the leader is to be a coach?
Mhm.
And yes, of course there's other skills that we need to be sensitive to in terms of of driving initiatives and generating results. And those are all aspects, having a strategy, all of those very important, I's and T's that leaders need to cross as well. But what we're talking about is sort of the ethos, right? Is that kind of
Mm-hmm.
how you see coaching?
Yeah, I
Is
think
it like the
it's a
ethos?
mindset. It's a
Mm.
mindset, and there are skills that you can kind of layer on it, but it starts with just how you perceive the world and how you interact with others, I think.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, say more about that. What goes
Oh,
into your mindset as a coach?
well, I think number one, believing that everyone has their own answers, that I don't know better than someone else. Even if I have more experience, every situation is going to be different. And so my role as a coach is not to give advice. I think that's one of the main things that people sometimes misunderstand about coaching, and they think it's advising, counseling, mentoring, something along those lines. But in coaching, we really believe that people are naturally resourceful and whole as they are, and that they can find their own answers. And my job is just to help them expand their view using powerful questions and the skills that we're going to get into to help them see things in a different way. And my favorite part about coaching, and what really drove me to get into it, is helping people see things about themselves and appreciate things about themselves that they didn't know they had or they didn't know they could do. And so just helping them kind of like go deeper, come at it from a different angle, and then opening up their thinking till they find the answer that they're looking for, or the path or the decision, whatever it might be. So it's that
So as
expansiveness. Sorry.
hmm No,
Yeah.
no. So really good. Yeah. So you're saying that people are naturally creative, resourceful, whole, complete as they are, which is a
Mm-hmm.
different mindset, from kind of where we came from in psychology, right? Where coaching
Mm-hmm.
sort of originally had its roots, and then where there's something broken and something needs to be fixed. Whereas
Right.
coaching is really about, I love that distinction. Like with counseling is more about where you are now and a retrospective back to find answers,
Mm-hmm.
where coaching is really about where you are now and we're going forward, almost as if the future, once you determine that future self, like who you really want to be, what's the impact you want to have, what's the vision for your life, that future pulls you, that future self pulls you towards
Yes. And there's like an
who you want to become.
unlocking. I feel like a lot of my clients feel like something got unlocked. It was there, but it had to be opened up, or
Yes.
they tapping into a new part of their brain or a different way of thinking about something. But I also want to know what you love about coaching, and how you got
Hmm.
into it, and how you think about it in terms of leadership.
Well, I feel like if I was, 15 years old and somebody had said, "Would you start a new industry called coaching?" Like I would have been like the first person, one of the first people on the scene, because I always really saw so much potential in every person I met. It was almost a telepathy almost that I had as a kid, that I could see things for people, and so became very fascinated in it. Got a mentor myself that changed my life, got me going in a
Mm,
completely different direction of purposeful living versus sort of reckless disregard. I for the path that I was on was much more reckless,
mm,
versus now it's honing those skills of I those the recklessness I'm talking about is like being comfortable taking risks,
mm.
doing things nobody else would do. Well, those are also leadership skills that if I could hone those, and that's what mentoring gave me, that then I very quickly then after 10 years in mental health, because there really was no coaching on the scene then, really until Tony Robbins came on the scene. And then I was like, that's what I'm
Mm,
looking for,
yeah.
a much more positive psychology, and kind of away from a medical model that I felt like wasn't really serving people who wanted to who thought they were doing well and they wanted to do better. I didn't feel like there was any
Hmm.
space for that. And so I became, just super interested. I was studying all the time. I wouldn't share, I wasn't sharing this with anybody. I was just sort of doing all my own research, studying different um, philosophers at that time, Alan Watts, Buckminster Fuller. I was 17 reading, Think and Grow Rich. And I thought, this is what
Mm-hmm.
people need in order to live their best life. And so I've been a coach now for 25 years and thoroughly love it every day. It's the one thing that I'll do every day. I say I'm a coach for life. There is no other job I want to do on this planet. I feel like that's my purpose.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I
Yeah.
think I'd love also to talk a little bit about the outcomes of coaching. I still find
Yeah.
people think coaching is kind of squishy and, a life coach or an executive coach. What is this coaching?
Yes.
And we know, and through your experience, that there are proven outcomes. So
Yeah.
should we
Yeah.
spend a
Talk
minute
talk
on
about
that?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you have some that have been put out. I know ASTD has some out there that are really good. But yeah, share some. That would be useful.
Oh, yeah, so every study around coaching, there's higher retention of employees, there's increased self-reported morale, there is increased confidence and competence in the leaders themselves, and there's an increase to the bottom line in every study that I have found. So it's not just about feeling better, it's actually about driving the business. And
Yes.
um, and there are several different studies, so we will share those in our masterclass, but that's the bottom line, is that it really impacts the efficiency, the productivity, and um, the satisfaction from the leadership down of an organization. So
Yeah.
when people talk to me about coaching and they say, oh, what's the difference between therapy and is it worth it? Or, I have lots of people I can talk to. What's the difference with a coach? And is it worth the investment? In my mind, it's very easy. There are studies that show, a 400% return on
Turn.
investment. These things that are just sort of astronomical. But if you talk to someone who's been through coaching, a full experience, 6 months or more, um, maybe once or twice a month, preferably twice a month, and they come in, it's really important that they have something they want to work on and an openness to work on that. But with those conditions, most people that I've talked to, either who I've coached or who I know have worked with coaches, say life-changing. That's the number one kind of phrase that I've heard, that it's life-changing. It just sets them on a new track because it opens a way of thinking that you kind of can't put back in.
Right. It opens the aperture of life in a way that
Mm-hmm.
that
Oh yeah,
really
I love that.
there's nothing else
Aperture.
out there's nothing else out there that meets that. And we're talking about work right now. We're talking about
Mm-hmm.
using coaching as as a way of being and a way that you show up as the leader. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've studied our own clients over the past 23 years now, and we have statistics as high as 93% of our clients get promoted, get the job that they
Mm.
wanted. They report that others have self-selected out of the workforce, let's say, or they actually through coaching have decided, no, I want to stay where I am, which is a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing, right?
Yep.
To have somebody really choose in what they want, but higher promotion, getting the job you want, getting the visibility you want, getting the money that you want, getting the life that you
Mm-hmm.
want. These are all over 25-year period. People still report, even early clients report, you that coaching put me on a trajectory where I was able then to lead myself
Yes.
to my next steps. And it's wonderful in terms of what it does for the bottom line, no question.
Yeah. And it usually frees the leader up, is what I
Yeah.
find. That when there's an over dependence on the leader, sort of if the team can't function without direction, or if I had a client who had to be out for a while for personal reasons and things just sort of crumbled. And then when he took time off again after the coaching experience and after he started to embody those coaching skills and take on that mindset, the team was so self-reliant that they could function without him there. And then when he returned, with full confidence in them that they know how to do what they're doing in their roles, he could just pick right back up again. So I think there's a real benefit to the leader as well in that sort of freeing up over dependence.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the masterclass, will we be talking about sort of step by step how to onboard your team to the fact that I'm going to be maybe showing up a little bit differently? Or is it just sort of,
Mm,
we're going to just, in fact, that leads us into our first skill that we're going to be teaching, which is
yes.
how to
Designing the
design.
alliance.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
I
do you want to
that is
take that
one of
one?
my favorite. Sure. Yeah. So I feel like designing the alliance can be used anywhere in life, but at work, it's really just about kind of creating a working contract of how two people or a team or whatever group will work together, agreements that you want to make. And it may seem at first like, there's a company handbook or there are policies and we're all supposed to abide by them. And this is something different. This is more of the social contract of getting to know one another, getting to know their styles, getting to know how we like to work, how we like to communicate. Um, you can design some things. I had an agreement with one of my coworkers a while back that the first 10 minutes when I come in the door and put my stuff down at my desk, I just need to write down every great idea or something that came to me on my drive to work because I got tired of writing post-it notes or putting notes in my phone on the way to work. I didn't want to crash it. I said, I'm going to just come in and I'm going to write them all down. And so that's a tiny one, but just as an example of something, and this woman couldn't wait for me to get in to tell me everything she wanted to. So I had to design, I'll take 10 minutes and then you can come in. But it can be, um,
Hmm.
some agreements around take space, make space, equal airtime. It can be around, um, expect good intent. And so if someone says something that, rubs you the wrong way, you go in with that feeling of curiosity rather than, immediately being on different sides. So designing the alliance just creates a really strong foundation, I think.
And can you redesign the alliance? Like, let's say you didn't do that with one of your team members, and now all of a
Yes.
sudden, they're you want to give them feedback, and you didn't design. Hey, one of the ways that I'll support you as the leader is to give you feedback as close to in the moment
Yes,
as
I think
possible.
that is key. It's a working contract or a working agreement at all times on both sides. So at any time, and that has been important to me in my career with when I've been a supervisor, that while we may have different places that we hold within an organization or a company, the respect and the ability to communicate and the lines of communication are equal. So I think when it comes to designing the alliance, it has to be possible on both sides. And there might be a disagreement until and you work it through until you get something you both can agree on, but there has to be an openness that each person or anyone in the group can add to that, sort of the design.
Right. So, and you touched on it a little bit, but what I've understood from all my time of coaching that the one factor that prevents coaching from working is somebody's desire to not be coached. And that's
Yes.
so important, as a leader to discern this person is super hard-headed and not, and could be very stubborn and not open to feedback. How am I going
Mm-hmm.
to be with that as the leader? How am I going to approach that with this person? They may not want coaching directly, but
Mm-hmm.
we do need to have certain things in place. And so being able to go at that. Sometimes it's the first conversation is, I notice it's hard for you to get feedback. Are you open to talking
Mm-hmm.
about that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's one of the skills we're going to teach is around articulating what's going on and naming the elephant in the room. And sometimes the hardest one is to say, here's what I've noticed. How does that,
Mm-hmm.
is that something you're even aware of, that you kind of, yeah, 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 as soon as anybody gives you feedback. Have you ever noticed that, right? Like that's a way
Mm-hmm.
to then open that door.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think the opportunity to design the alliance is there from the beginning. It's really important when you're starting in a new position as a leader or as a staff member, a team member, and really investing in the relationship early and building trust and designing and then following through on the design. But it is possible if you haven't been doing it, if you're listening to this right now and this isn't a way you've thought about it, to go back and say, I'd like to take some time and talk about how we work together. And even if you're not comfortable with the terminology, sort of designing the alliance or setting agreements, you can make it your own. It's just that idea of talking about how you will work together. It's so easy to dive into the work and
Yeah.
skip over the talking about how will we work together.
Yeah. And of course, we love the language of designing the alliance because it is an alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I totally agree that if that language doesn't work, then yeah, I mean, I've used operating agreements, I've used team agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's agreements versus expectations that we're going for. That
Exactly.
these aren't expectations, or you say it once and then now it's an expectation. It's an agreement that continues to need nurturing, need nutrients in the soil, that is
Mm-hmm.
constantly evaluated. And I think it's a powerful tool to fall on your sword a little bit as a leader and say, I've realized that I've really been showing up as a problem solver for you. I've solved
Mm.
a lot of your problems when you've come to me rather than really teaching you how to solve it yourself. And I just want you to know going forward that that's going to be a change that you're going to notice in me. So you
Mm-hmm.
may notice a disruption in the way our process usually goes. Now I might say, what have you tried already? And
Mm-hmm.
what else could you try that you haven't tried? So you might notice that I'm starting to ask you more questions because I really see something for you if you can take ownership of this project in a way that you haven't before. And I realize I've been in the way because I've been solving the problems for you.
Yes. And to go back just briefly to the idea of show, we will be showing this in the masterclass because we will begin by designing the alliance with the group in our masterclass. So if you come to the masterclass, you'll get to experience that. And I like to design anytime I'm in a new situation with a new group of people. It can take 2 minutes. Just do a quick design.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
not going to go too much into the goodies there. So come to the master
Yes.
class and you'll learn more about how not only the uh sorry, reminder to turn off notifications when I'm doing our show. Okay, so but yes, we're going to go into that. We're going to go into designing the alliance more, not only just for one-on-one relationship with the person that you are going to be coaching or that you're using the coaching skills with, but also to help you as a speaker, help you as a facilitator, help you as a team coach. So if you're also leading teams, these are all skills that are going to be transferable beyond one to one. So it's one to one and one to many. These skills will apply.
All right. Should we move on to one of our
Yeah,
other favorite skills? And
you got it.
that is listening, which feels so
Ah,
simple to people. Of course, I listen, but there are many different skills that can be practiced that go into listening. So I
yes,
know you have some exercises we might
I
do,
do.
and this is one of your
Yes.
favorite topics to teach on. So tell us more.
So listening is a superpower. I truly believe that it is one of the skills that can really differentiate you as a leader. And why I say that, because once we get the what I call the little me out of the way, right? So the big me can take over, meaning that we become less and less attached of what we know and how much we share and how much we show people how profound we are in meetings. That's all what we call in the level one of listening and speaking, is that it's all about me. So a lot of us, all of us, in fact, we're trained from the very early age to listen for ourselves. And this is where you have people interrupting and talking over people and yeah, but you didn't hear me and this is why. And or it could even just be something really nice, right? It could be anything. It could be how your weekend was. And then all of a sudden that person takes the conversation and runs with it.
Mm.
So that's the level one that we're going to talk about, which is all about me. And there are absolutely appropriate times for when you're in level one. But for leadership, we really, really need to elevate out of level one, which is out of the me and into the you and into the we. And so that's what we're going to explore is how do you actually do that? How do you listen at a higher level? And how do you, as a skill for leaders, it's so important because it's not just about listening, but it's about the impact of your listening on your team. And now you're remembering things about them. You're noticing their body language. This is where intuition really comes in very strongly about somebody, right? You're like, you're saying this, but I'm really getting this sense that this is really what's bothering you, or this is what the goal should be, right? So listening as a superpower is incredibly important. It's obviously a very underused skill, but we're going to be talking more about how do we access that higher level of listening. And first and foremost, we teach in our programs that first it comes through the eyes, right? So we have to have what I call available eyes. That way we're then completely focused on the other person. Once we look away, right, we could be thinking about our grocery list. We could be thinking about, oh my gosh, what am I going to say about the next skill? Because I also want to say something here, right? That is all that level one that is trying to be noticed, trying to be recognized. And for leadership, we need to elevate that because that listening at a higher level will absolutely change the culture so people can actually thrive and solve problems for themselves.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love talking about listening. I also love thinking about, and one of the things we'll talk about more, I think, is what are you listening for? If
Yes.
you can tune in, am I listening? I'm listening for values. I'm listening for what really brings alive my client or the person I'm speaking with. What is their body language telling as their heaviness? There's just we can really tune in those listening skills when we know what we're listening for and what our
Yes.
awareness focus is.
Thank you. That's an awesome distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you realize, the majority of human interaction is dominated by words,
Mm-hmm.
but most everybody's connecting to the topic at a level one. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in terms of, innovation and new direction, new strategy, new ways of doing things, we can't really access those higher level ways that strategy, right? It's like we can't see a new
Mm-hmm.
strategy for ourselves and our team if every interaction is dominated by the level one.
Mm-hmm.
So removing
Yeah.
at least one person who's really listening for what's important here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the person really saying? How can I really best help? Yeah, I could solve it, but I solved it last week. So maybe there's something else going on here.
Yeah. And I love what you were saying about there's a time for level one. I've found with my clients sometimes too, when I teach them about the listening levels 1, 2, and 3, or as you said, sort of the I, you, and we, they'll feel that they shouldn't ever be in level one. But level one is where we know that we're hungry. Level one is
Yeah,
where we know that we need to take care of ourselves. Level one is what tells us I'm in a situation I don't want to be in, and this person is making me uncomfortable. Level one has, as you said, there's a lot of intuition in level one as well. And so it's more the distinction of which level am I at? Which level am I listening in right now? And if I want
right.
to be in a level two and focused on you and really hearing what you're saying versus, like you said, sort of focused on my own experience or waiting to share my version of the story or jump in with my opinion or whatever it is that I want to have heard. When we're in level 2, we can really focus on the other person. And level 3 is the best. Level 3 is when we're sort of all feeling the energy within a space. And
Yes.
I often think of it like a concert. If we're all at the same concert, we're feeling that energy in the room. And then there's this feeling of possibility, like you talked around innovation, like so much of the good stuff when you feel like everybody's just in sync or we're in the zone together, which feels rare sometimes. But when you get a group, a team really working well together, and when you have a leader who is proficient and just sort of has embodied a coaching mindset, you spend more time together in that level 3. And it's
Right.
it's such a fun place to be.
Oh my gosh, is it ever, right?
Mhm.
And it's like that whole idea of the leader. I'm sure you've heard that book, the leader eat last,
Mhm.
and that this is like the leader talks last, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes even in the level 3, you can be aware that as if I go first as the leader, then that's going to shut down
Yeah.
the discussion,
Mhm.
right? And so
Yeah.
if it's like, nope, I'm going to go last, I want to hear what you have to say,
Mhm.
then it's creates that more collaborative, more brainstormy, more, oh, there is no failure, in this discussion, because the leader hasn't, set it down. This is what I think about this. So
Yeah.
I
And I
love
like
that.
it, if we go back to designing the lines just for a minute, if you've up a situation where everyone gets to be heard, then there's less need to be in that level 1 waiting for your turn to speak, because there's a comfort in knowing your turn will come. So I can really
Yeah.
listen. And then when it's my turn, I have faith that I'll know what I want to say. I don't have to keep replaying it until I get to say it. I can really tune
Right.
into the other person.
Yeah, like imagine what that would feel like if you could, what you want to say about it, but now you hold it really loosely. And now you
Mhm.
can be fully present with what everybody else is saying, because yeah, I know my turn is coming, and I know I know the core of what I want to say. I don't need to have it exact.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's such a freedom for people. Yeah, I really want to just acknowledge you, because you in such a short amount of time, you've really created quite a business for yourself already, and I just see how hard you're working, and that really leads into our next skill, which is
Mm.
acknowledging people
Yes. Oh, I
and
love
how important that
acknowledging.
is. Yes.
Yes.
So tell
So
us more about that.
it might feel very simple, but acknowledging someone authentically and acknowledging the whole person goes such a long way in building trust, building rapport, and then building teams. So what I've noticed is that most people hold back, especially leaders, not all, but many people hold back on sharing their observations of another person, either because they think the other one already knows it, or they feel that the feedback they need to give is when it's more constructive criticism because maybe they're not seeing it. So, for example, acknowledging is just telling you what I see in you. Kendall, you are a warm and welcoming presence.
Mm.
You are a champion for women in the workplace. You are an adventure seeker.
Yeah.
You are comfortable in your own skin. You are taking 2024 by storm.
Woo. Literally.
These are simple
Thank you.
acknowledgments. Yeah. And it's
Mm.
just, it tells the person, I see this in you. I see, I'll use it with my kids. I see you working so hard on your homework lately. It's just acknowledging is one of the simplest and, in my opinion, one of the most powerful and underutilized coaching skills. And we'll also talk in the masterclass a little bit about the difference between acknowledging and championing, and how both of them can also lead then to challenging. So acknowledging is I see you, I know this to be true about you. Championing is more about I believe you can do it. You know, you can think more of a coach in a more traditional athletic sense, or teacher as coach, or parent as coach, you know, that championing. And then challenging is something that you really taught me. So I'm going to turn it to you to explain challenging, because I love how you talk about it.
I think, well, thank you so much for the demonstration of
Mm,
acknowledgement in the moment. Thank you. Thank you. Because
yeah.
it does feel so good. And you're absolutely right. It just doesn't take much at all to just say, 10 seconds, 15 seconds of, hey, I saw what you did there, or I see how hard
Mm-hmm.
you're working. And then challenging is, and I think there's a little bit more you could do that you'd be surprised at the impact it would have if you stepped into this challenge. I get to
Mm-hmm.
do this a lot, because we do so much public speaking coaching. I get to do this a lot with, and I see you speaking up. I see you standing up in meetings more. I see you going to the microphone more. I see you volunteering to speak at this next event. I see you taking, volunteering to be on this committee. There's so many ways that we can challenge then inside that, where what I call it the big gulp, right? We're looking for the big
Mm.
gulp feeling of where the face looks a little bit white and the person is terrified.
Yes.
So, it could be I challenge you to quit your job and start your business. That could be a
Mm.
really big challenge. It
Yeah.
could be I challenge you to sign up for this course. I challenge you to, to be the speaker at the next board meeting. That you put yourself first on the agenda. So anything that just creates that gulp feeling in somebody
Mm.
is where you're getting close to what the big fear is. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way to conquer the big fear is to give somebody a challenge, not just a would you consider at some
Mm.
point, signing up to be the speaker. At some point, would you consider that? That's more
Yeah.
like an inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
But a
And it's
challenge
a
is, would you do
fast
it?
track to show for someone to feel what's in the way. A lot of times in coaching, we'll ask what's getting in the way, or who would you need to be to do that, or what would you need to overcome? And it just goes, they get it. Like all of a sudden, the thing about it that's scary becomes
Right.
really clear to them. And then they know the work they need to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And then they can negotiate. They're like, well, I still want to lose 10 pounds before I become the speaker. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
what is the challenge that you're going to do? What do we need in place then so that is on a fast track itself?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it is a negotiation, but for for the coach, it's important to really land something out there that is going to get that big reaction. Like, oh my God, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I could do that.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's where challenging comes in, and we'll I just gave my husband a challenge yesterday. He wanted to do one of our marketing pieces, and I said, I absolutely want to give you that, but only if you can do it in 30 minutes. Well, that just, oh
Mm.
my God, oh no, 30 minutes, right? Because he knows what it is, but he likes to dawdle with his creations, right? And so he
Yeah.
likes to take a lot of time and lather in it for a while. But it's like,
Hmm.
I know he'll feel so much better if he goes, whoa, I did that in 30 minutes. I can't believe I did that in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And that's, those are sort of almost coaching hacks to say, if you change the size, the time, shorten the time frame, make it bigger, um, it just pushes somebody in a way that helps them really feel where their growth edge is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find challenges to be really fun to use with clients.
Good. All right. So we encourage everybody to put a challenge out there for ourselves, or I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
can, everything we're teaching people, everything we're teaching you, our listeners, we're encouraging you to try on yourself first to make sure you
Mm-hmm.
really believe it. You really believe that it can work. I've been doing all of these things with myself, all these skills with myself for I never do anything with anybody unless I've tested it on myself. So do these things with yourself. Put little challenges out there, and then play with it with people that you love too. It'll create some great conversation.
Yes, absolutely. All
So, okay, the
right.
next one that we want to talk about is asking powerful questions that move things forward.
Mm.
So, obviously, we want to talk about powerful questions and why this is so important to coaching. Do you want to get the conversation started, and then I'll add?
Sure. Every single one of these skills I want to say is my favorite, but this one, I think for me, when I first started learning about coaching, this was the biggest game changer. The types of questions we can ask. And as a former journalist, I loved open-ended questions. I really already understood the value of that. And but this asking powerful questions. So one, it's really easy. They're short. They're usually very short. They usually start with what, sometimes how. And the key, I think, is then the pause. Put it out there and wait and really let the other person answer. Um, and I can share some of my favorite ones, but I would love to hear more from you about sort of your take on
Yeah.
power. What makes them powerful?
Well, I think what makes them powerful is that they create meaning. They create meaning for the person because they're
Mm-hmm.
introspective in nature. They're asking the person to, to kind of marinate a little bit in, tell me a little bit more about what's going on. Tell me, like, so powerful questions don't start with why. Absolutely, like, and the reason is because why can hold some judgment. Why can hold a place of, well, you did something not correctly, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
our questions aren't intending to put people into like a shame cycle here. What we're trying to do is help them look inside, and that we believe that they know the answers internally. We just need to ask some questions to help kind of put the breadcrumbs out there
Mm-hmm.
of helping them find their way. And so, like, one of my favorite questions, even to begin any meeting, is when I'm coaching, is we have our agenda of where we're going today, but is there anything else that would be
Mm-hmm.
useful to get the conversation started today that you would like
Mm-hmm.
to get out of coaching today? We can because people forget that one as an important place to start a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise we can kind of come in with our level one of, this is where we're starting, this is my agenda for today. I'll even send out a question beforehand, like an hour before. I can't wait to see you. What would you like coaching on today?
Mm-hmm.
Just to start to get them going. And then I'll still ask, is there anything else that would be useful, just
Mm-hmm.
to make sure nothing else has kind of come forward. And then what I found is that what people share in the first 3 minutes is really everything you need for the whole coaching meeting,
Mm. If you're really listening.
if
Yeah.
you're really listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so coaching really is fundamentally going towards three different, or I should say powerful questions, towards really helping that person see what is in the way. As you said, what
Mm-hmm.
what what is their ideal state? And then, yeah, what's getting in the way of you experiencing that all the time or more of the time? And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, whoa, how much you get out of that helps the coach really understand and listen for those values, right, that are underneath the answer, in terms of, yeah, this is what I would like. I'd like better work-life balance. Okay, tell me
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like. Have you ever experienced that before? Oh, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I did. Okay, so now we have a benchmark, right, of what is in their
Mm-hmm.
mind of what that could look like. All right, great. Now what's in the way of that happening? Well, we have snow days. Now my what I had on my what I had on my agenda isn't happening today. I have my bigger game plan, but now I've got this in the way, right? And so it's helping people really build resourcefulness in themselves and resilience that does not require a lot of output for the leader. And that's what I love about powerful questions.
Yeah. And maybe I'll jump ahead just for a minute to the grow model that we're going to
Yes, please.
share,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
at different stages, there are different powerful questions that are really helpful, or different types of questions. So
Oh, yes.
grow stands for goal, reality, options, and will. And if you come to the
Mm,
masterclass, you'll hear a lot more about this. But I like to listen for my clients, and even with just in coaching like conversations with others, like sort of which stage are they in? Are they clear on their goal? Do they know what they want? And if not, I'll ask a powerful question like, what do you really want in this situation? What would success look like on the other side of this? Where do you want to be? Picture yourself there, and we can bring in a visioning skill. If they're in the reality stage where they know just what they want, then I want to get really clear with them. Well, where are you right now? And that word now, adding now to any question, I find to be very, very powerful. Sort of what's important to you now?
mm.
Where are you with this now? And you might ask later in the conversation, where are you with it now? And you might get a different answer. So sort of what is the reality for my client or the person I'm speaking with? And then exploring options. Where do you want to go? What do you want it to look like?
Who can help
And then
you?
who can help you? Yes. And another thing I love is the distinction sometimes between what do they need to do and who do they need to be? Sort of
Yeah.
that being and doing. Who would you need to be to stand in front of a room of 350 people and speak authentically from the heart? What would that take?
A lot of
Um,
courage.
yes, yes. And then the last one is will. What will you do? And that's where, the skill of accountability, we talk about kind of holding our clients accountable to themselves. What will help them to achieve that goal they set out. So I just love that it's sort of a grow. I like a good acronym, and it helps sort of keep me on track to know which type of powerful question. I also love, one of my very favorite powerful questions is, what would happen if you do nothing?
Right. Everything
Yeah.
stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that question. Oh, we're going to have so much fun at our masterclass.
We are, yes. So we'll get deeper
Yeah.
into that as well.
Yeah, so why don't we stop there so that people can really digest what we've shared today, knowing
Okay.
that there's lots more. You'll actually be getting a workbook, a coaching skills that explains sort of more in detail that you'll be getting when you sign up. And then lots of goodies that we'll be experiencing that day with exercises and really things that you can do with your team or with people right away. So there's not going to be any delay in you saying, oh, I need to go get certified or something like that. Absolutely not. We're teaching this so that you can apply it the very same day and start having the better conversations that you know you're ready to have.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. So thank you. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I can't wait to be on the masterclass with you next month. And we're going to have details below on the date and time and all the registration that we have. And enrollment. Enrollment is a skill in coaching. And I'm enrolling you right now to go ahead and register. Click the link below to register. Coaching skills, we took it out of the marketing about that you really can live a life beyond your wildest imagination. And that is the life that I'm living as a result of becoming a coach and sharing that wisdom, having that servant heart that extends to others has been. I truly believe service is the greatest currency on the planet,
Mm.
and plan to continue and share with those who are ready to use these skills to live a better life.